The rain had been falling on Varix Prime all night, turning the neon streets into glowing rivers. Jack Walker stood under the flickering light of an old street sign, watching the yellow tape flutter in the wind. The crime scene smelled of rust, oil, and old rainwater, but no trace of the killer. Not a single clue. No footprints, no fingerprints, no DNA. Whoever did this knew exactly how to cover their tracks. Jack was a private investigator, but even he had to admit this case was unlike anything he had seen. The victim was an important cargo broker, found dead in his own office. Every security camera was shut down at the same time. No one heard a struggle. The police had already given up, calling it unsolvable. But Jack wasn't ready to quit. He needed a lead, and fast. It was then he remembered a story he had once heard in a smoke-filled bar about a rare alien race called the Varians. They were known for their incredible sense of smell, able to track a person through crowded streets even days later. Able to smell fear, lies, and danger before anyone else. The story had sounded like a myth at the time, but now, Jack wondered if it might be the only way to solve this. He searched the lower districts for hours, asking shady contacts and buying drinks for anyone who might know. Finally, he got a name: Lyra. She was said to work at a small, greasy diner on the corner of Steel Market and 9th. Jack pushed open the door and stepped inside. The smell of burnt coffee and fried synth meat hit him instantly. She was there, wiping a table near the window. Her skin was pale silver with faint blue markings under her eyes, and her hair shimmered like wet steel under the lights. She moved with quiet grace, but her eyes flicked toward him the moment he stepped inside, as if she already knew why he had come. "You're Lyra," Jack said, his voice calm but firm. She didn't answer, only stared at him for a moment before turning back to her work. "I need your help," he continued. "I know what you are, and I know what you can do." Her hands froze on the table. Her voice was low when she finally spoke. "If you know what I am, then you also know I don't work for strangers. I can pay," Jack said, sliding a credit chip onto the table. "More than you make here in a month." She shook her head. "It's not about money. People like you hire us, and people like me end up dead." Jack leaned closer. "The man who did this is dangerous. He'll kill again. I'm not asking for much. Just follow a scent. Tell me where it leads. After that, you can walk away for a long moment." Lyra didn't speak. Her eyes searched his face as if measuring his honesty. Finally, she sighed and took the chip. "One job, that's all." They left the diner together. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the street smelled of wet stone and engine smoke. Jack led her to the office where the murder had taken place. The moment they stepped inside, Lyra stopped. Her nostrils flared slightly. Her head tilted as if listening to something only she could hear. She walked slowly, touching the walls, moving around the desk, breathing deeply. Her silver eyes narrowed. The killer was here. "Less than 3 days ago," she said quietly. "He's male, tall, carries something metallic on his right side. There's something else." Jack waited, watching her carefully. Lyra's face changed, and for the first time, he saw real fear in her eyes. "What is it?" he asked. She turned toward him, her voice a whisper. "The scent is still fresh." Jack frowned. "Fresh?" "As in," her eyes flicked to the door. "As in, he's standing outside right now." Jack's hand went to the gun under his coat. His heart was pounding. The rain outside had grown heavier, blurring the glass door through the distortion. He saw a tall shadow standing perfectly still. Lyra's voice was trembling now. "Jack, if you open that door, you'll see him. But I can tell you one thing he already knows about me." Jack didn't know whether to believe her or think it was a trick. But the way her hands shook told him she wasn't lying. He stepped toward the door. Every muscle tight, he pulled it open. The rain hit his face. The shadow was gone. Only the wet, empty street remained. Lyra stepped up beside him, breathing fast. Her voice was almost too quiet to hear. "You don't understand, Jack. If he knows my scent, he will never stop hunting us." Jack looked at her sharply. "Us?" She didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the dark corner of the street, as if the shadow was still there, waiting. Jack didn't sleep that night. The image of that shadow outside the office door kept replaying in his mind. It wasn't just the figure, it was the way it stood there, perfectly still. Like it had been waiting for them. He could still hear Lyra's voice in his head, saying, "The killer knew her scent." That meant he could find them anywhere, at any time. Lyra sat across from him in the small booth of a late-night cafe. Her silver fingers wrapped around a cup of steaming drink she hadn't touched. She kept glancing at the door every few seconds. The hum of the street outside felt heavier, as if the city itself was holding its breath. "He's not going to stop," she said suddenly. Her voice was calm but low. "Once he catches my scent, he can follow it for days, weeks, even through storms. He's trained for this." Jack leaned forward. "Then we find him first." She shook her head. "You don't understand. He's not just any tracker. He's Vorik. They call him the Bloodhound. He hunts variants like me for the black market, sells us to the highest bidder. Some want us for our scent ability, some for other reasons." Jack's jaw tightened. "If he's after you, then he's after me too now." She didn't smile. "That's exactly why you should walk away." But Jack wasn't the type to walk away. He'd been in dangerous situations. Before, he'd made enemies in every district of VRX Prime, and he was still breathing. He slid a small data chip across the table toward her. "This is the warehouse I want to check. Smugglers use it as a drop point, if your friend is anywhere nearby. Maybe you can smell him." Her eyes narrowed at the word friend, but she took the chip anyway. Minutes later, they were moving through narrow alleys. Rain dripping from broken gutter pipes. The air was cold. But Lyra's senses seemed sharper than ever. Her head would tilt slightly every few steps, as if listening to the air itself. When they reached the warehouse, the front door was already broken. Jack's instincts screamed that something was wrong. He drew his weapon. Lyra stepped inside first, and the change in her posture was immediate. Her hands clenched, her pupils tightened. She inhaled once. Slowly. "There's blood," she said, "fresh and more than one." The dim light flickered above them. Jack moved forward, carefully. The moment they entered the main room, the metallic stench of death hit him. Even without her nose, bodies were scattered like thrown dolls, all wearing the colors of the smuggler crew. But the strangest thing wasn't the bodies, it was the message. Painted on the floor in alien blood, 3 words that made Jack's stomach twist. "Return her to us." Lyra didn't move. She just stared at the words, her face pale. Her voice was barely audible. "They know you're helping me. That means you're marked now." Jack walked between the bodies, searching for signs of the killer, but there were no footprints, no marks of a fight, just clean, precise kills. Whoever did this was fast, and probably wanted them to find it. A sound made him freeze. It came from the far end of the warehouse. Slow footsteps on the metal floor. Jack raised his gun. Lyra stayed still, her eyes locked on the shadows. The figure didn't step into the light, but Jack could feel the weight of its gaze. "Walker," a deep voice said, smooth and cold. "You've picked up something that doesn't belong to you." Jack didn't answer. His finger tightened on the trigger. "You think you can hide her from me?" The voice continued. "I can smell her from across the district. I know when she's afraid, when she's lying, when her heart beats faster." Lyra's breathing was shallow now. Jack glanced at her, but she shook her head slightly, telling him not to shoot. Then the footsteps moved back into the dark, fading until they were gone. Jack rushed forward. But by the time he reached the far wall, there was nothing there, not even a trace. Lyra stepped beside him, whispering, "He's toying with us. He wants us to run. The more we run, the easier it is for him to corner us." Jack holstered his weapon, his mind racing. They couldn't go back to his office, and the safe house he knew was too far. They needed somewhere quiet, somewhere her scent wouldn't stand out. They ended up in an abandoned apartment above a rusted mechanic shop. The smell of oil and burnt metal filled the air. Lyra sat by the window, her gaze fixed on the street below. Jack paced the room. "He could have killed us back there," Jack muttered. "Why didn't he?" Lyra didn't look at him, because this is a game to him, and in his games, the prey always runs first. Jack stopped pacing. "Then we stop running." Her eyes met his finally. "If we do that, Walker, it means we hunt him." Jack nodded. Slowly, exactly, but as he said it, a faint noise reached them, a soft tap on the window. Lyra's head turned sharply. She stood, inhaling deeply. Her eyes widened. "He's here," she whispered. When Jack spun toward the glass, he saw nothing but the rain outside, but Lyra's voice was cold now. "No, not here, Walker." "Above us?" Jack's hand went to his weapon instantly. The old ceiling above them groaned under some unseen weight. The rain outside masked other sounds, but Lyra's head was tilted, her breathing steady as she listened. "He's moving," she said quietly. "Slow, careful. He knows we're listening." Jack's eyes scanned the cracked plaster above. He pointed toward the far corner. They moved silently, Lyra's steps lighter than his. Then a sudden thud rattled the dust loose from the ceiling. Jack aimed up. But before he could fire, something heavy scraped across the roof and was gone. Lyra exhaled through her nose. "He's testing the air, he's mapping the smell patterns in the room." Jack frowned. "Mapping what?" She looked at him. "Our movements. The air shifts when we move. Our scents drift with it. He's learning how to hunt us in here." Jack didn't wait for more. He darted to the stairwell that led to the roof, taking the steps 2 at a time. The rusted metal creaked under his boots. Lyra followed close behind when they pushed open the roof door. Cold rain slapped their faces. The rooftop was empty, at least. It looked that way, but Lyra turned sharply toward the far edge, her voice low. "He was here, but he's already moving fast." Jack crouched near a puddle, something catching his eye. A single metallic claw mark was etched into the concrete, fresh enough that the edges still glistened. "That's not human," Jack muttered. "No," Lyra agreed. "Vorax, not fully organic, they say. He replaced half his body to make him a better hunter." The thought twisted in Jack's mind. Whoever they were dealing with wasn't just some criminal, he was engineered for this. They climbed back down, sealing the door behind them. Jack sat at the table, dripping rainwater. "If we can't hide from him, and we can't outrun him, then we need bait." Lyra gave him a sharp look. "You mean me? You're the only thing he wants," Jack said bluntly. "If we control where you are, maybe we control where he goes." Her jaw tightened. "And what happens if your plan fails?" "I end up back in chains." Jack didn't answer, because he didn't have a good one. Instead, he pulled up a city map on his datapad. "We choose a location somewhere open, somewhere I can control the angles, and somewhere you can use your nose before he sees you." She studied him for a long moment, then finally said, "There's an old spice processing plant near the southern docks. The air there is thick, smells stronger than anywhere else in the district. It might hide me long enough for you to act first." Jack nodded. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. By nightfall, they were at the docks. The plant's massive metal silos rose above them like silent giants. The air was heavy with the sharp bite of pepper and crushed herbs. Lyra stood still, inhaling deeply. "The scent will cling to us too." make it harder for him to follow later. They moved inside, Jack taking position near an old conveyor belt. Lyra kept to the shadows, the sound of rain on the roof mixed with the soft hum of old machinery. Then, nothing. Minutes stretched into an hour. Jack's focus never wavered. But Lyra's body shifted suddenly. She whispered from across the room, "He's here." Jack scanned the darkness. "Where?" "Everywhere," she breathed. "He's masking his scent with the spices." Blending into the air, then a faint metallic scrape echoed through the plant, followed by another closer. Jack's grip on his weapon tightened. A shadow flickered between the silos, then vanished. Lyra moved slowly, head turning as she traced the faint threads of scent. Her fingers brushed the cold metal wall. "He's circling," she whispered. Jack's pulse thundered. He knew if Vorik made the first move, it could be over in seconds. He took one silent step forward, and that was when he saw it, a faint red glint, low to the ground, moving toward Lyra. "Lyra, down!" Jack shouted. She dropped instantly as a hooked blade sliced through the air where her head had been. Jack fired, the muzzle flash lighting up Vorik's partially metal face for the first time. One eye was mechanical, glowing faintly, the other cold and sharp, but the shot only grazed his armor. Vorik moved like liquid shadow, closing the distance before Jack could fire again. Lyra rolled away, her hands grabbing a handful of crushed spice from the floor. She threw it in his face. Vorik snarled, a sound more machine than man. His head jerked back. Jack used the moment to tackle him into a conveyor. The old belts groaned, gears squealed. Lyra scrambled toward them. Eyes wide, Jack pinned him for only a second before Vorik's strength overpowered him. The hunter's metal arm smashed into Jack's chest, sending him crashing into a support beam. Lyra's voice cut through the noise. "Walker, now." She had ripped open a vent shaft, and the smell of concentrated spice flooded the air. Vorik froze for a moment, his senses thrown into chaos. Jack forced himself up, grabbing his weapon again. But when he looked toward where Vorik had been, the space was empty. Only the sound of the rain outside remained. Lyra stepped closer, her voice tense. "He's gone." But not far. Jack steadied his breathing. "Then we don't wait for him to come back. We take the fight to him." Jack didn't waste time. The moment Vorik vanished into the night, he pulled Lyra toward the exit. The air outside was thick with the spice dust they'd kicked up, and it clung to their clothes, making them cough as they moved. The dock lights flickered overhead, throwing the shadows into strange shapes. Lyra was quiet, but her eyes moved constantly, scanning every corner. "He won't leave the area yet," she said. "He'll circle back. He always circles back." Jack kept his weapon close. "Then we have to stay ahead of him." They cut through narrow alleys between storage containers, the sound of the waves slapping against the dock walls echoing around them. Jack's mind was already working on a new plan. The plant had been too open, too many ways in and out. He needed a place that worked like a funnel, somewhere Vorik couldn't slip away once he was inside. "There's a freight depot 3 blocks from here," Jack said. "Only one entrance, and it's all steel walls inside, if we can get him. There, I can trap him." Lyra didn't answer at first. Then she said softly, "You talk like trapping him will be enough. You don't understand. Vorik doesn't stop because he's trapped. He stops because the other thing is dead." Jack glanced at her. "Then we make sure the other thing isn't us." By the time they reached the depot, the streets were nearly empty. A single dim lamp burned above the giant sliding doors. The lock was already broken. Jack pushed the door open slowly, the hinges groaning. The inside smelled faintly of rust and oil. Lyra stepped in and froze. Her head turned sharply toward the far side of the room. She whispered, "Blood. Old, but not human." Jack scanned the floor with his light. Dark stains spread across the concrete in uneven patches. Something about them was wrong. The shape of the splatter wasn't random. It was deliberate, almost like a message. "This isn't just a depot," Lyra murmured. "He's used this." Placed before Jack's grip on his weapon tightened. He didn't like the idea of walking into somewhere Vorik knew better than they did. But before he could say anything, the steel door behind them slammed shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot. They spun around. The latch had dropped from the outside, locking them in. Trap. Jack growled. "No," Lyra whispered, her breathing shallow. "It's worse. He's already inside." The overhead lights flickered once, then twice, before going out completely. They were left in total darkness. Jack turned on his flashlight. The narrow beam cutting through the black. The sound of slow MEASURED footsteps began to move along the walls. Vorik's voice came from somewhere in the shadows. "You made me chase you longer than most. Walker, for that, I'll make it quick." Lyra moved behind Jack, her eyes fixed on the beam of light as it swept the room. She inhaled sharply, then grabbed Jack's arm. "Left," she hissed. Jack swung the light to the left, just in time to catch a flash of metal. He fired, the shot sparking off Vorik's armor. The hunter retreated back into the dark, his footsteps silent now. Jack's mind raced. He couldn't just keep spinning. In circles, Vorik was faster, quieter, and stronger. But Lyra's nose was still their best weapon. She moved slowly, one hand on the floor, smelling the air in short, quick breaths. "He's circling toward the wall," she said, "trying to flank us." Jack took a step toward the corner, and that's when something heavy crashed down from above. Vorik had been waiting in the rafters. He hit Jack hard, knocking the flashlight across the floor. The beam spun wildly, throwing shadows that danced like predators. Jack rolled, firing blindly, but Vorik was already on Lyra. His mechanical arm shot out. Grabbing her by the wrist, she twisted, her free hand digging into a pouch at her belt before he could pull her closer. She smashed a glass vial against his armor. A thick, choking vapor burst out, filling the air with an overpowering scent of ammonia and rot. Vorik staggered, his enhanced senses overwhelmed. Lyra pulled free, coughing. "Walker, now!" Lunged, slamming into Vorik with everything he had. The impact knocked them both toward a stack of metal crates. The sound rang through the depot like thunder. Vorik's grip tightened on Jack's shoulder, claws digging through his coat. For a second, Jack thought this was it. But then Lyra was there, swinging a length of steel pipe with all her strength. The blow landed on Vorik's jaw, the sound of metal on metal ringing out. He released Jack and stumbled back, his systems recalibrating. Jack grabbed the flashlight and aimed it directly at Vorik's face, blinding his organic eye. "You're done," he growled. Vorik tilted his head, his voice calm despite the damage. "You have no idea what's hunting you." Walker then, with a sudden burst of strength, he launched himself backward through one of the high windows, disappearing into the storm outside. Lyra stood there, chest rising and falling quickly. "He let us live again," she said. "Which means he's not done playing." Jack holstered his weapon, his mind already jumping ahead. "Then next time, we end the game." The storm was still raging when Jack and Lyra left the depot. The streets glistened with rain, reflecting the dim neon. Signs like broken glass. Jack's ribs ached from Vorik's hit, but he ignored the pain. Every step they took felt like moving deeper into a city that didn't belong to them anymore. Lyra walked slightly ahead, her head turning left and right, catching scents that Jack couldn't even imagine. "He's further now," she said. "But not gone. He's leaving a trail on purpose." Jack frowned. "Why would he do that?" "To pull us somewhere," she replied without looking back. "Hunters always choose the ground they want to kill on." That thought stuck with Jack as they made their way through the lower districts. The alleys here were tight, stacked with Old metal structures, steam rising from vents in the ground. Somewhere above, a distant siren wailed. Then faded. They reached a dead-end street lined with rusted freight containers. Lyra stopped so suddenly that Jack almost bumped into her. She was staring at the largest container, the lock broken. Her voice was low. "This is it." Jack raised an eyebrow. "It's just a box." Her gaze didn't move. "No, it's a nest." Jack pushed the door open slowly. The smell hit him. Instantly metal, sweat, and something sour inside. The container was stripped bare except for chains hanging from the walls. Some were stained dark. Others still dripped water from the storm. Lyra stepped inside, her expression unreadable. She traced her fingers along the cold steel. "He's kept people here." She whispered variants. "Mostly, I can smell it in the rust." Jack scanned the corners, and that's when he saw a small datapad wedged between two panels. He pulled it out and switched it on. A single file opened automatically, displaying Vorek's voice in a recorded message. "You can't hide her, Walker," the voice said, distorted but clear. "You bring her to me. I let you live. You keep running, and I'll take her from your corpse." Jack crushed the pad in his fist and tossed it aside. "He's getting bold." "No," Lyra said. "He's getting ready." Before Jack could answer, Lyra's head snapped toward the door. "Someone's here," she said sharply. Jack turned, expecting Vorek, but instead, a tall figure in a hood stepped inside. The stranger moved slowly, hands raised to show they weren't holding a weapon. When they spoke, their voice was deep but calm. "Walker, Lyra, you don't know who you're dealing with." Jack didn't lower his weapon, "And you are." The hood came down, revealing a scarred alien face with dull gray skin and piercing yellow eyes. "Name's Kareth. I used to hunt for him. I know how Vorek works, and if you keep chasing him like this, you're both dead before sunrise." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Why help us?" Kareth glanced at her. "Because I've seen what happens to our kind when he gets them. And because I know where he's going next." Jack stepped closer. "Then talk." Kareth's gaze shifted to the floor. "There's an old commuter train line that runs under the city. Abandoned for years. He'll use it to cut off every escape route. He won't come for you in the open anymore. He'll drag you down into the tunnels. That's where he's strongest." Jack's mind was already working. The tunnels were dangerous, cramped, and full of blind corners. The perfect hunting ground. But if they could get there first, maybe they could turn it against him. Lyra spoke before Jack could. "If we go down there, we might never come back up." Jack met her eyes. "And if we don't, he'll keep chasing until he gets what he wants." Kareth nodded once. Then, "You'll need more than just a gun. I can get you something that might even the odds. But it comes with a price." Jack hesitated. "What kind of price?" Kareth's smile was thin. "You'll owe me a favor, one I can call in whenever I choose." Lyra looked at Jack sharply, shaking her head. But Jack made the choice anyway. "Fine," he said. "Get us what we need." Kareth reached into his coat and handed Jack a small cylindrical device. Flash detonator. "Vorek's eyes and sensors will go blind for a few seconds if you set this off close enough. That's your only opening, use it or die." Jack pocketed it. "Then we go to the tunnels." Kareth didn't follow them when they left, disappearing back into the rain like he'd never been there. Lyra was quiet as they walked, but Jack could feel the tension in her steps. When they reached the entrance to the old train line, the air was damp and cold. The tunnel yawned open like a dark mouth, swallowing the faint light from above. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "He's already down there." Jack tightened his grip on his weapon. "Good," he said. "Let's finish this." They stepped inside. The echo of their footsteps swallowed by the heavy silence. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, a metallic scrape answered them. Slow and deliberate. The tunnel air was thick, smelling of damp stone, rust, and something faintly electric. Jack's boots splashed through shallow puddles as they moved deeper. The sound echoed, bouncing off the walls and making it hard to tell where anything was coming from. Lyra walked close beside him, her head turning in small, sharp movements. Every few steps, she paused, sniffing the air. "He's moving." She whispered, "Not far ahead, but he's not alone." Jack slowed. "Not alone." Her voice was tight. "I smell machines." Small, fast, and covered in his scent, as if to prove her point. A faint metallic skitter echoed from somewhere in the dark. Jack flicked on his flashlight, but the beam only caught a quick flash of something crawling along the ceiling before it vanished again. "They're scouts," Lyra said. "He's using them to pin us in place. If we stop moving, they'll surround us." Jack gritted his teeth. "Then we keep going." The tunnel split ahead into two paths. Lyra hesitated for only a moment before pointing to the left. "This way. His scent is stronger here, but there's something else." Something burning. They moved into the left passage, and the air grew warmer. The walls here were blackened with scorch marks, and bits of old wiring dangled from the ceiling like dead vines. A low hum began to vibrate through the floor under their feet. Jack glanced at Lyra. "That's not him." "No," she said. "That's a trap." A second later, the tunnel lit up with a sudden burst of light. Two small drones shot forward from the darkness, their metal frames glinting as they unleashed a spray of molten sparks. Jack yanked Lyra back just in time. The sparks hit the wall, leaving smoking holes in the stone. Jack fired twice, shattering the first drone in a burst of sparks. Lyra moved with quick precision, grabbing a loose pipe from the ground and smashing the second drone's sensor eye until it fell still. The hum faded, replaced by the steady drip of water from somewhere ahead. "That wasn't to kill us," Lyra said, catching her breath. "It was to slow us down. He wants the tension to build. He wants me scared." Jack reloaded. "Then let's disappoint him." They kept moving until the tunnel opened into a wider chamber. The ceiling rose high above them, disappearing into shadow. Old train tracks cut through the center, leading toward a platform at the far end, and that's when they saw him. Vorik stood on the platform, still as stone. His mechanical arm caught the dim light, and his organic eye locked on Lyra instantly. He didn't rush forward, didn't speak. Just watched. Jack stepped slightly in front of her. "This ends tonight." Vorik's voice was calm, even amused. "You think you can end me, Walker? You've been running in my shadow since the first day. You're prey, both of you." Jack's fingers brushed the flash detonator in his pocket. Lyra caught the movement and gave a subtle nod. Her breathing slowed, her focus sharpening. Vorik began to walk toward them, the sound of his boots heavy on the platform. The echo made it feel like the walls were closing in. Jack waited until the distance closed to 10 steps, then pulled the detonator and slammed his thumb on the trigger. A burst of white light exploded in the chamber, so bright it turned everything into a blinding haze. Vorik staggered, his metal arm twitching as his sensors scrambled to adjust. "Now!" Jack shouted. Lyra darted forward, moving low and fast. She swung the same steel pipe she'd used before, striking the joint in his leg where flesh met machine. The impact made Vorik drop to one knee. Jack fired twice, hitting the plates in his chest. One shot pierced deeper, sparks sprang from the wound. Vorik roared, his voice echoing off the stone. His arm lashed out, catching Jack across the ribs and sending him sprawling into the tracks. Lyra tried to back away, but Vorik's other hand caught her by the throat. Lifting her effortlessly, Jack forced himself up, vision spinning. He grabbed the pipe Lyra had dropped and charged, slamming it into the damaged joint in Vorik's leg again. This time, the metal cracked. Vorik stumbled, dropping Lyra. She hit the ground hard, but rolled to her feet instantly. Her eyes locked on his chest wound. She stepped in close, inhaling deeply. "Your scent." "It's fading," she whispered. "You're bleeding out." Vorik's grin was cold. "Maybe? But I only need one of you to take with me." He lunged again, but Jack was ready. The third strike with the pipe connected with his chest, hitting the weak point and forcing him back onto the platform edge. One more push, and he fell, crashing. Onto the tracks below, the impact echoed through the tunnel. Sparks danced from his damaged systems. He didn't move. Lyra's voice trembled. "Is it over?" Jack stared down at the still body. "If it is. It's too easy." And then, as if to answer him, Vorik's mechanical eye flickered once. Twice, before going dark, the tunnel fell silent, except for the sound of water dripping from somewhere far away. But Lyra didn't look relieved. She was staring into the dark beyond the platform, her voice low. "Jack, there's another scent coming." Jack didn't like the way Lyra's voice sounded. It wasn't fear this time. It was something colder, sharper. He turned toward the darkness beyond the platform, straining to hear. At first, there was nothing. Just the steady drip of water and the faint hiss of leaking pipes. Then came the sound, slow, deliberate footsteps. They weren't heavy like Vorik's. They were lighter, almost careful. Lyra's eyes narrowed. It's not him, but it's the same scent mixed with something older. Jack's hand tightened on the steel pipe. "Family." She shook her head. "No, worse." The figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, wrapped in a long, dark coat. The hood was drawn low, hiding the face. But the moment they spoke, Jack felt the air shift. "You've made a mess," the voice said, calm and measured. "Vorik was one of ours. Now you've broken him." Jack kept his weapon steady. "If he was one of yours, then you're next." The hooded figure chuckled softly. "You misunderstand. I'm not here to kill you, Walker. I'm here for her." Lyra stepped back, her hands curling into fists. "You're from the Syndicate." The figure nodded once. "Vorik was only a retrieval unit when he failed. They sent me." Jack shifted to block her. "You're not taking her anywhere. You can't protect her forever." The figure replied, "Her scent is in our archives now. It will never fade. Every hunter we have can track her to the ends of this galaxy." Jack's mind raced. He'd thought killing Vorik would end this, but now he understood Vorik wasn't the threat, he was just the opening move. The figure tilted their head slightly. "You've fought well, I'll give you that. But you're only delaying the inevitable." Lyra's gaze locked on Jack. "We can't stay here." Jack nodded. "Then we make a new plan." He pulled a smoke grenade from his coat, one he'd kept for emergencies, yanked the pin. The chamber filled with thick, choking clouds. The figure's shape blurred and vanished into the haze. They ran, moving deeper into the tunnel system. The smoke covered their scent for now, but Lyra's voice was urgent. "This won't last long. We need to disappear completely." Jack glanced back. "And how do we do that?" She hesitated, then said, "There's one way, but you won't like it. We burn my scent out of existence." Jack frowned. "Meaning?" "There's a chemical process," she explained quickly. "Painful, dangerous, but it will erase my scent. Signature from every hunter's range. It's what some of my people used when they went into hiding." Jack didn't hesitate. "Then we do it." They surfaced through an old service hatch, emerging into the wet, cold night. The rain fell harder now, washing some of the grime from their clothes. But the city still felt hostile. Like every shadow held eyes. Lyra led him to an abandoned apothecary in the lower district. The air inside was stale, filled with the faint smell of herbs and dust. She rummaged through the shelves, pulling down vials and old containers, mixing them with quick, practiced movements. Jack watched her work, his jaw tight. "This going to kill you?" She didn't look up. "Not if you keep the fire steady." When she was done, She poured the mixture into a small metal basin and lit it. The liquid flared into a strange blue flame, filling the room with a sharp, metallic smell. "This is it," she said. "Once I breathe it in, I won't smell like me anymore. Not to them, not to anyone." Jack hesitated. "Are you sure?" She met his eyes. "If we don't do this, you'll spend the rest of your life fighting people like Vorik. I don't want that for you." She leaned over the flame. Inhaling deeply, her body tensed instantly. Eyes squeezing shut, Jack grabbed her shoulders as she swayed, keeping her steady. The smell was overpowering, burning his own throat just being near it. When she finally pulled back, she collapsed against him. Breathing hard, her skin was pale, but her eyes opened slowly. "It's done," she whispered. "They can't track me anymore." Jack helped her stand, but before they could leave, a voice came from the doorway, low and mocking. "Clever," it said. "But scent isn't the only way to hunt." They both turned, and there in the shadows stood the hooded figure from the tunnel, the rain dripping from their coat, a faint glow from a weapon in their hand. Jack stepped forward, his voice cold. "Then I guess we start round 2. The figure smiled beneath the hood. "Oh, Walker, this round never ends."